All right, we're live. Harlan. Oh, Harlan, say hi.
Hey.
We are driving back from Harlan's basketball game. And Harlan asked me, what did you ask me?
What do you think? How do you think the end of the world as we know it will end?
Will happen?
Yeah.
What is going to be the end of the world as we know it? What will that look like? So, I wanted to answer this question for Harlan, but I also wanted to answer it for y'all. So, I'm going to explain this as best I can for y'all and for Harlan, who's 9, right? You're 9? Okay. So, the way I think this is going to happen, buddy, is if you look at, we have what's called a civilization in the United States, okay? Where a civilization is like a group of people that we have all the services and functions, like the Chinese civilization. It's their group of people and the way they operate, right? So the American civilization is us, right? Or that could be called an empire, like the British Empire, or the Chinese Empire, or the Egyptian Empire, or whatever. Well, empires usually last about 250 years, okay? And we have been going for about 242 years right now, which means mathematically we have about 8 more years, plus or minus, for things to go the way that they're going now. The end stage, because empires go through stages. Is this making sense? Making sense? Okay. Empires go through stages. The end stage of an empire is decadence. Decadence means like everything is extra. Like everything is just more than you need, right? Like your house is bigger than you need it to be. Like you have more toys than you need, right? Right? And more clothes than you need. And there's food in the pantry, right? So, and that's not just on a personal level, but as a society, we have more than we need. And during a decadent period, politicians, the political class of people, become very powerful or highly regarded, like we see right now, like with Barack Obama a couple years ago, and now Donald Trump. The warrior class is frowned upon. So, like, people that don't like the military, don't like soldiers, right? And what is it you want to be when you grow up?
Either an army ranger or a marine.
So either a marine or an army ranger is what Harlan wants to be when he grows up. Semper Fi, that's all I'm saying. Right, but the warrior class is frowned upon. People don't like the warrior class because the warrior class reminds them that the world is a dangerous place. And the decadent people don't like to be reminded that the world is a dangerous place. That's why the sheep don't like sheepdogs, because even though the sheepdogs protect the sheep from the wolves, the sheepdogs are always reminding the sheep about the wolves, and the sheep don't want to think about the wolves. They just want to walk around and eat the grass and be oblivious to the wolves, okay? Also, during a decadent time period, civilizations and societies build walls, like Hadrian's Wall in
like
Greece.
Donald Trump.
Like Donald Trump's wall, exactly. Or the Great Wall of China, okay? So, and you see a lot of mercenaries come into play. And right now, the DoD, Department of Defense, is talking about turning all of the Afghan campaign over to private mercenaries. In fact, that's one of the things that me and your mom talked about, was maybe me going there because it pays so much money, but I'm probably not gonna go, just so you know. But anyway, that's an end stage decadent society, right? And so that means, based upon history, that this society is in its end days, right? Well, when that happens, because this society that we live in, all this stuff, like, see how that field, look out that window, see how it's part field and part housing development?
Yeah.
Well, which is sustainable? Which one can last longer, the field or the housing development?
Field.
The field, right? Good answer. Our society is unsustainable. It takes more and more and more inputs to maintain all that extra decadence. And eventually you have what's called a point of diminishing returns, which means you're putting in more into the system than you're getting out of it. It's like when you're trying to pedal your bike super fast, even though you're pedaling twice as hard, you're not going twice as fast, right? You're going faster, but not twice as fast. That's called diminishing returns. And that's going to happen with our society. We will have diminishing returns. And so when that happens, when it all starts falling apart, I think that's going to be the thing that for the United States is the end of the world as we know it. That people in this area, right? People in this area where they have to paint these tractors and put them out by the road to make it look like they're on farmland, even though they're paving over the farmland to build houses, they're not going to know how to provide their own inputs, how to grow a garden, how to save rainwater, how to raise up chickens, like you and your sister have to feed the chickens, right?
Yeah.
Feed the rabbits, all that. Water the garden, plant the corn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we generate as much of our own inputs as we can. These people don't. So once the system fails to be able to provide for these people, where they can't trade money for food anymore, then they're gonna go haywire, right? And for a little bit, the government's gonna try to take care of it. But we're gonna find out pretty quick that there's actually a lot more people than there are people in the government. And it won't work. The government will try and protect itself. That's a whole thing. It's called continuity of government. That if the president gets killed, then the vice president takes over. If the vice president gets killed, so forth and so on, right? So when bad stuff happens, the government already has a plan for what is it gonna do to move forward. And when that happens, it starts thinking about itself, not everybody else. So there's not gonna be like government superheroes showing up to take care of people because they're going to be busy taking care of themselves. So I think what's going to happen is it'll be something like all the student loan debt, everybody that went to college and can't pay for it, that's going to cause a bubble, and the dollar's not going to be very valuable, and people won't be able to buy food. And it'll start out small, and it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. Or something else like that will happen. But I think that's what's going to happen. And we're going to go from our decadent stage right now back to the warrior class, because that's the first stage in a new civilization. And the warrior class is supported by the agrarian class. Agrarian, like agriculture, like farmers, ranchers, tinkerers, people that can make stuff, carpenters, loggers, those kind of people. And it's going to be like, well, we need to go into town, better hop on the horse because it'll be really hard to get gasoline. Or I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think there'll still be people, and there'll still be societies, and there'll still be teams. But I think it's going to be a lot more like it was before the American Revolution, where power was a lot more localized and people had their teams and their tribes and their families, rather than big community, small community. That's what I think. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Is there anything that I didn't explain properly?
No.
No? Makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
I thought that a scientist would mess up and make a virus and there would be a zombie apocalypse.
You think it's going to be a zombie apocalypse?
Yeah.
It might be a zombie apocalypse. I don't know. But the cool thing about preparedness is that it covers general preparedness covers like 95% of whatever could go wrong, right? Because if there's a bunch of zombies, let's say, and they're trying to get in the house to eat your baby sister, you can shoot them in the forehead, right? Well, to shoot them in the forehead, you need a gun and ammo, right? We also need a gun and ammo for hunting. You also need a gun and ammo for self-defense. You also need a gun and ammo for establishing checkpoints and perimeters in an area of operations if there's a government meltdown or whatever, right? So no matter what happens, having extra stuff. And it's funny because our decadence right now, the fact that everybody, even the poorest people, have money to work with, our extra right now allows us to buy extra so that we can transition from a period of extra right now to a period of very little, which will be the next stage. The warrior class and agrarian class, farmer, rancher, logger, tinkerer, those people, that's going to be a period not of extra, but of very little, because people are going to have to work really, really hard for their inputs. Whereas right now, we buy our inputs, right? So because we're in an extra period right now, we can take that extra and set it aside for lean times, which I think are coming. And that's why, in big part, we are moving out of this area. All of these houses and just traffic and all this junk, moving out of this area and into a much more rural area so that we have more room to generate our own inputs, and we have far fewer people. See all these roofs? All these people, and they're very nice people, but when something happens, they will be in direct competition with each other. It's like that basketball game you just played, right? There's only one basketball, but there's 10 guys fighting over it.
Actually, 12.
12 guys. Well, there's however many, okay?
No,
10 guys. There's 10 guys fighting over that one ball, okay? Now, if that ball was food, it'd be even more intense, right? Well, that's what's going to happen around here. Is there's all these people and there's only so much food, or there's only one basketball on the court, right? Well, if you change the court to where there's one court and one basketball and one guy, you got enough, because there's fewer people, right? So that's part of why we're going to where we're going, so that we don't have to be in direct competition with these nice people, because it'll probably get ugly. And I don't want it to get ugly with you and your mama and your two sisters here while we're here, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want that to happen. Do you want that to happen?
No.
No. So we're going to go do our own thing and be much more self-sufficient than we are even now. And that'll actually put us in a better position to be able to help more people rather than have to fight just to stay alive. Because this place will get dangerous. Because this is our street, son.
We have to return the jersey.
No. You got to wash it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just played a game in it. Okay, so did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I think. That's how I think the world's going to end. TEOTWAWKI, the end of the world as we know it. Thanks, Harlan.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. All right, bye, y'all.